I'm going to close with asking the panel, this is unrehearsed, they have 1 minute. If you were all going to retire today...
Retire?
Retire, yeah, I know, don't laugh. If you were going to retire today and had to leave one piece of advice before you walk out the door and never return, what would you like to see changed? Or what advice would you like to share with the group? And you can go in any order you want, whatever popped into your head first.
I'll go first, and become a student of the future. And there are some things that we can do. How many of you are on Twitter, or at least have a Twitter account? So you can look up the World Future Society or some similar organization on Twitter and see who they're following, and quickly narrow down to some kind of people who have the feet on the ground stuff. I've always, and with due respect to Erin, I heard the introduction, I've always thought if I was ever going to start a career over again, I'd become an economist or a weather forecaster, because in both businesses, there's no accountability if you're wrong.
All right.
You can take your shot next.
I'll let you go first, Erin. Go ahead.
Well, I do want to say I've never been a practicing economist, because when I found out what they made, I thought there was better things I could be doing with my time. Having said that, and my academic background probably has something to do with this, my advice is know your numbers. You got to know your business like nobody else is. You've got to know your trends. You've got to know what happened this year versus last year, what your 3-year trends are. You got to figure out what your metrics are, what you need to be watching, and what you need to be aware of. Looking at financial statements as they are a point in time. They tell you nothing about where we're going or where we've been, but if you really get your metrics and have a good dashboard and really good management information, at least you know what your trends are, what you need to watch out for, and your directors know what they need to plan for and what risks they need to take. The second point I would make, particularly to organized real estate, you guys are really cheap. It's really important sometimes to make an investment in the future of your organization. And at the end of the day, I don't honestly think, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think your members are really going to thank you for letting the bank account build up when maybe we should have been investing in something that we needed to protect ourselves from a danger in the future or take us forward. Don't be afraid to spend some money.
Yeah, I think this has to do with the caliber and the quality of the people that you assemble around the big decisions that need to be made, right? And if we don't have, as a system, any manner, predictable and sustainable manner to assure that caliber of individual that comes to our boards year after year and continually gets better and better and better at the job of governing and making decisions making, then the rest of this is somewhat random in my point. I think we have to, again, we have a for the member, by the member philosophy that's endured for 100 years. I think we need to start looking seriously at minimum qualification standards for board directors. There are accreditation standards for lots of other industries. If you're going to be a director of a not-for-profit corporation, you have to have some qualifications to be able to do that job. I do think that organized real estate has used the board structure, and I mean board directors and committee structures, over generations now as a means to engage members in the work of the organization, not to develop directors or not to even seek out good directors. And there's a distinction between membership engagement and good governance and directors. So I think we have to start to look at putting in standards, and some of those ideas like bringing in non-member directors to bring a second sober thought or an outside viewpoint to discussions are things we should consider. Both acts, legislation federally and provincially, allow for those things to be looked at. As Ontario's come into effect, we should have those conversations. We need to start to look at informing your membership about the importance of having those standards and qualifications in place when they're electing people. And we don't want to get rid of the election process, but we want to make sure that the membership is informed about how their vote will make a significant difference on the board of directors for that term of office. There are too many board presidents right now, many in this room, and CEOs that I've talked to over the years that say, well, we got lucky this year. We didn't have any rogue directors. This is not an issue of luck. This should not be an issue of luck. There should be some predictability to the caliber of people that show up. We're lucky that we got high caliber people in this room, but over time, you want to put a system in place to make sure that you've got the right people. The right people will deal with process and structure and culture in a way that will transform the industry. The wrong people will take you backwards and continually make you spiral back on yourself, and it'll go over you.
So
Absolutely. In 10 short years, look at what's happened with MLS consolidation, with our technology. And if we think the last 10 years was rapid and changing, imagine the next 5 or so. I would really like to express my appreciation for our panel members, Jack, Erin, and Brad.